Or Sixers fans will be able to sit on the center court red line in the 8th row of the mezzanine bowl for $20 a seat. Last year, that same ticket was $45, a 56% reduction. Simply stated, price will not be an obstacle in preventing Philadelphia sports fans from being able to enjoy NBA basketball in person. On game nights, come to our arena. Guys and girls, bring your friends. Parents, bring your kids. Our house is now your house. And finally, fourth announcement. While our ticket prices in many cases will be lower, we will not be selling the 76ers on the basis of price. Instead, we will work tirelessly every waking moment to offer Philadelphians exciting, winning basketball. And importantly, we're also announcing today that we intend to literally transform the Sixers fan experience on game nights at the Wells Fargo Center. We intend to create nothing less than a happening on game nights, one that Philadelphia will be talking about and of which Philadelphia will be proud. A Sixers game will offer great entertainment and yet will also appeal to basketball purists as we herald much of the Sixers' historic success and traditions. Over the coming weeks, you should expect a series of specific announcements as to exactly how we will be enhancing and improving what our fans will enjoy when they attend Sixers games in person. With that said, we can't wait to rise to the challenge. I look forward to meeting and hearing from Sixers fans. You'll find me at the Wells Fargo Center, around town, and hearkening back to my Philadelphia roots. Keep your eyes open for me if you happen to find yourself some night at Lee's Hoagie House or Pat's Steaks. Thank you, and Josh Harris and I will now be happy to answer any of your questions. Yeah, I'll do that. We'll do that. Thank you. We are streaming live on Sixers.com, which is why it's important for the questions to be mic'd.
Hi. Are there plans to replace Ed, or is Rod going to assume greater responsibility? How would you describe what's going to happen there?
We were lucky enough when we bought the team to have two fantastic people doing one job, Ed and Rod. And so it was two people, both very well qualified, doing one job. We're going to stay with Rod. There are no current plans to replace Ed at this point.
What kind of role would the lockout play in how you guys operate daily right now, the NBA lockout? How will that affect operations right now? In terms of how you guys are addressing the Sixers and how will you guys be an integral part in meetings and the lockout? How will that play out?
Well, as you know, we can't talk about the lockout in any way and won't. What I will say is over the last several weeks, and certainly starting last night at 11:59 p.m., we're moving 100 miles an hour on all fronts. We'll be ready with something fabulous for when the right time comes.
Josh, to get back to Rod, will there be any of the owners that have any say, and I'll use the word interfere, with Rod in any kind of personnel decisions? And the second question is, you are a businessman, obviously. Why would you buy a franchise that has lost money for at least the last 7 years?
Two good questions. Firstly, you can be assured that we are interested owners, and we're going to be very focused and behind the scenes. There's going to be lots of debate about what we do with players and so forth. But at the end of the day, Rod is the captain of that ship, and so he's going to run that part of our organization. And we're also going to speak with you through one voice, which is going to be, when it comes to players, Rod and Doug's voice, if you will. And so that's not the way I know that there are certain owners that run their teams in the way that you were inferring, but that's not the way that we are going to approach this. The second question is related to why would we do this? Why would I do it? And I actually look at it quite differently. I think that we're lucky enough to be able to buy one of the third most winning franchise in basketball history, a storied franchise, at a time where we were able to get what we think is an appropriate deal for the team, and we think we're able to participate in the breathe new life into that team. The team, as I think all of you are aware, had been less connected with its fans, and as a result, it wasn't really generating revenue, selling as many tickets as we think we ultimately can do. It wasn't realizing its potential. And so we think there's lots of things we can do to improve the financial situation of the team, really by two simple things. One is connecting with our fans and making it a great experience for them. But secondly, obviously we have to win. But I think the good news is we've got a team and executives that are very capable of doing that. The last thing is the NBA itself, I think, is continuing to experience lots of growth in terms of the interest it has globally, ignoring some of the short-term issues, and more generally here in the U.S. And so we actually think it's a really exciting business opportunity, in addition to being an exciting opportunity to be part of a storied team. Thanks.
Philadelphia has a reputation as a basketball town, but the Sixers have had ticket selling issues for most of forever. Why do you think that is?
Why do I think it is?
Yeah.
I can't speculate really about why it was. When I was a kid here, this was a four-sports team town. And it wasn't so long ago that the Sixers sold out every night. It's our task to bring that enthusiasm in the city of Philadelphia back into the Wells Fargo Center on Philadelphia 76ers game nights. There are a lot of things that we can do differently that give us a fighting chance at succeeding going forward. One of them we've announced today, which is lower ticket prices. That should be meaningful to Philadelphians. Second, we have committed ourselves to a dramatically enhanced game experience, fan experience on game nights. A typical basketball fan is in an arena for as much as 3 hours on a game night for a game on a stop clock of 48 minutes. That means they're in the building for a couple of hours. And what we do with those attendees in the 48 minutes is clearly the most important thing. But what we do for them in the other 2 hours is also important too. So we have a lot of ideas on what we can do to make it more enjoyable to go to a game. As I said earlier, we're going to be announcing a series of improvements over the next several weeks. And we're all going to find out together whether it works, but we're reasonably confident that it will.
Joshua, I was wondering if you can go through the process as to when and how you ended up purchasing the team.
When and how I ended up I purchased the team last night at 11:59. The process has taken many, many months in the sense that it was a negotiated transaction with Comcast Spectacor. Obviously, in my day job, this is what I do for a living, and so it's something that we're well accustomed to. As has been announced, we are buying the Philadelphia 76ers basketball team. We are not buying the arena. We have an arena deal, and we have a lease, if you will, and we're not buying the cable rights. We have a deal on the cable rights. So there was some complexity and a lot of work that went into carving out, if you will, this team and creating a standalone business and making sure those agreements were favorable to the team. And we did a lot of work on that and feel very, very good that we ended up with a very nice situation in all respects there. So that probably took many months. And so that's sort of generally the process that was gone through.
Joshua, I don't know if it's fair to refer to the Sixers as a distressed property, but it's underperformed economically and also on the court. Could you compare taking on this challenge to anything else you've done in your career? Could you give a sort of a parallel to something else you've gotten into that's you've been able to turn around and we're proud of?
Sure. First of all, I wouldn't call the Sixers a distress has a negative connotation, obviously. I think that this is a situation where we feel like taking the 76ers and making it a standalone business where the ownership and the coaches and the management, the 100% of our time is going to be focused on that asset, not on a broader package of assets. I think that will, when we've done that in the past, and we've done that many times with other businesses, what we find is that singular focus and bringing everyone together breathes new life into a lot of situations. And so from a comparability standpoint, it's a lot of what I've done in my day job at Apollo in terms of buying businesses that are very, very high quality businesses, but might be part of a much bigger organization. And as a result, making them independent and standalone has yielded these real important energy benefits and other things. And so I think it's very similar there in terms of what we're doing. In terms of the differences, in many cases the businesses we own clearly don't have as much media attention as maybe the Sixers do, and that's something that we're going to have to get used to. I'm going to have to get used to personally, but I'm going into this with my eyes wide open and willing to accept that challenge. And in addition, obviously, the talent side of the business is something that we don't always run into in terms of having, the people that are very high profile that also are very well compensated, that also make news being part of our organization. But we've also dealt with that in certain situations. It's just probably a minority of the situations. Many times we buy big, boring businesses that you've never heard of, but pretty much the characteristics are very similar in a lot of ways to what I've done. And obviously the only other distinction that I'd make is that clearly I'm not doing this for Apollo. I'm doing this for me personally and for my partners. And so this is a personal investment, and so obviously it reflects personally on me, and I'm going to live and breathe this. I intend to be down here, go to the games. I'm going to try and be very involved with the city of Philadelphia. It's something that I really am excited about. I come down to Penn periodically. This will give me another excuse to be down here and sort of reinvigorate all my relationships and my sense of the city. So I'm looking forward to that as well. So those would be the similarities and the differences.
If I could, I'd just like to add a quick comment because that's such an important question. 3 times in my career before, once as a board member, once as a chief marketing officer, and once as a CEO, I was involved in significant turnarounds of financially distressed companies. And what I found was the common bond on why all 3 companies were successfully turned around is that the management we have a mic? We have a mic. In each case, how about a little lower in the volume? Thank you. In each case, for a successful turnaround, the managements of those organizations focused 100% on two things. One, they focused on their customers, in this case, our fans. And second, they focused on making their product excellent. And here too at the Sixers, we're going to put a lot of devotion and attention to putting a great product on the basketball court and offering a great experience in the arena around the entire evening of game nights.
Josh, I got two questions. The first is, have you reached out to Pat Croce, either to find out if he'd be interested in getting involved or to learn from perhaps some of his successes from the past? And the second question is, to what extent do you plan on balancing, with the lockout ongoing, the public push of initiatives currently, as opposed to perhaps laying low a little bit during a time where maybe people aren't paying attention as much and pushing things in months to come once the lockout is over? How are you going to balance sort of, many fans even today commented they didn't even want to hear this press conference today because they're so disinterested in the NBA. How do you balance that right now?